Alright, so what we're going to talk about now is we're going to talk about how to name molecular compounds. Now, what's nice about molecular compounds is the fact that, okay, first of all, they're only made of nonmetals. Okay, so they're only made of nonmetals. And what's cool about that is because they're only made out of nonmetals, um, all the atoms are neutral. Okay, so we are not worrying at all about charges. So, all these charges that we have written on our periodic table right now, that's just for ionic compounds. That's the only time that it's going to take on those charges. For us, we're just saying, okay, all the nonmetals, they're neutral. So, we're not really going to worry about right now what is actually holding them together. Okay, so here's how you name them. Just like with ionic compounds, you're going to have a first name and a second name. So whatever the first element is in the formula, here's how you're going to do it. If there's only one of it, so if there is only one, just use the name. So for example, like carbon dioxide, there's only one carbon, so we just say carbon dioxide, okay? If there is more than one, okay, now we need to use a prefix. And we're going to talk about those prefixes in 1 second. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you will write down the second name. And the second name, we're always going to use a prefix, even if there's just one of it. Okay, and then just like with ionic compounds, we're going to end with "ide." So you'll hack off the end of that second word, and you will end it with "ide." Okay? So next thing I want to show you before we do an actual example is what the prefixes are. So you're going to need to know all 10 of them. And I am going to ask you for all 10 of them. So don't go, oh man, 9, that's really hard. I'll just skip that one. Well, you're going to lose a point if you skip that one. Okay? I think they're all the Greek prefixes. So like 1 is going to be mono, like they say, man, mono y mono. That's like one-on-one. 2 is going to be die, like dice, you roll 2 dice. Die means 2. 3 is tri, like triangle. 4 is tetra. 5 is penta, pentagon. 6 is hexa. 7 is hepta. 8 is octa. 9 is nona. And then 10 is deca. Okay, so some of these, probably sound familiar. If they don't sound familiar, I don't know. You gotta memorize them. Okay. So here's an example. If I give you something like CO2, I mean, you probably already know what this is called, but let's, follow our naming rules and see if it makes sense. So first of all, I see, okay, I just have one carbon. So I go up here, I say, okay, if there's only one, just use the name. Okay, well, I have one carbon, just use the name. I'll say carbon. And then it says, for the second name, always use a prefix. So how many oxygens do I have? I have 2. So I'll say di. And then it says, end with "ide." Okay, so it's oxygen, so I'll say oxide. Cool? So then we look at another one. This is another common carbon-oxygen compound. And I say, okay, it's still only one carbon, so I say one carbon. But here there's only one oxygen. Just remember, with the second name, you always use a prefix. Okay? Now what's weird about this one is you would expect it to be monoxide. There isn't necessarily a set rule for when you get rid of letters. Just, try to write it and make it sound nice. If you had said monoxide, I probably would not mark that wrong in the meantime. Cool? So that's two examples. I could give you, another one. Like, I could give you something like N2O2. Okay, now I have more than one for the first one, so I'll call that guy dinitrogen. And then I've got two oxygens. Dioxide. Maybe I can do one without oxygen being the second one. I could do CCl4, so that's like one carbon. And then 4 chlorines, I'd say tetrachloride. Okay. So again, if there's more than one for the first one, you use a prefix. If there's only one, you don't use a prefix. For the second one, you always use a prefix, even if there's only one, and you end it with "ide." Okay, so you just need to also be able to do it the opposite way. So I could give you, for example, the name tetranitrogen dioxide. Tetra is 4, nitrogen is nitrogen, so I'd say N4. Dioxide is 2 oxygens, O2. Alright, then we could do another one. This is a real scary one. This is in all of our water. Dihydrogen monoxide. Okay, so we write it out. Dihydrogen, that's 2 hydrogens. Monoxide, that's 1 oxygen. That's water, H2O. Sound good? So again, please make sure that you send me an email if you have any questions about how to name molecular compounds, and have a nice day.